Have you ever made a tiny mistake, but then your brain tried to put you on trial for it, like it was a federal crime? Well, today I'm going to be talking about how to handle it when you make a mistake. I think a lot of people struggle with this, even though every human makes mistakes. It's inevitable. It's going to happen no matter how hard you try not to. But sometimes we take it too far, and it's not usually the mistake itself that causes a problem, but the way that we handle it afterwards. So, the first thing I like to point out is how would you talk to a friend that made that same mistake? Or even better, how would you talk to a child if they make a mistake? That's how we should talk to ourselves about it, because we're not going to berate our best friend for making a mistake, but we tend to do it ourselves. So there's a difference between reflection and rumination, and this being the reflection room. I like to talk about reflection too. So reflection is, what can I learn from this mistake? Where rumination is focused more on, what does this mean about me as a person? So we tend to take it as our sense of self or our identity instead of reflecting on what we can learn from that experience. And shaming yourself is not going to make it better. It just creates anxiety and avoidance. So if we focus on the rumination part where we're thinking, what does this mean about me? How can I fix it, make it better? It's just causing more problems instead of actually solving anything or learning from it. And in a previous episode, I talked about the brain's reaction to rejection. It's very similar with making mistakes because as the same as our brain perceives rejection like a detrimental life or death situation, sometimes making a mistake can feel that way too, because it can lead you to think this is going to make me an outcast or socially rejected or lose my job or those types of things, when in reality, we don't need to jump to those conclusions. So, one thing I do want to say, if this is a common feeling for you where you're feeling it most every time you make a mistake, then it would be good to talk to a therapist, because that could mean that you may struggle with perfectionism. You could be a high achiever, which is not a bad thing, but it can cause you to avoid making mistakes, which avoidance is not great either. And then this can also be a symptom of things like ADHD, OCD, and many other deeper rooted issues. So I would suggest working with a therapist. But for now, I'll give you some quick solutions or coping skills. One thing I really do want to emphasize is to avoid creating the habit of seeking reassurance. This is where the OCD tendencies can come in. So, for example, if I make a mistake and then my automatic thought is, I need to ask somebody if this is okay. So I go to my friend and I say, this happened. Am I going to lose my job? And they say, no, you're fine. It creates a moment of relief. And that relief is satisfying for a short amount of time until your brain starts all over again and you start the process again. And then the next time you go for reassurance, then after a while, that moment of relief gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And there's no way to get that feeling back to get a full resolution. So creating that habit of reassurance can be very unhealthy. Nowadays, people use ChatGPT or AI to get reassurance, which can create that loop even faster because ChatGPT is always available, whereas your friend may not be. So I would just be really careful about asking for reassurance. Another option is to set a thinking boundary. I do this with most emotions. Like sometimes when people struggle with, they feel like their emotion is never going to stop. Like if they start crying, they're never going to stop crying. Well, in this case, you can set a timer for, let's say, 10 minutes. And you can think about the issue, reflect on it, actually. I wouldn't say to spiral on it or to ruminate on it, but to reflect, see what you can learn from the situation and what you can do better next time for about 10 minutes. And then after that timer goes off, you force yourself to redirect. So that could be anything that helps you redirect your thought process, but specifically physical activity is a great way to interrupt your thought cycle. Physical activity helps with your mental health in so many ways. I could do a whole slew of episodes on that, but you can take a walk, take a shower, clean something, exercise, organize something, anything to distract yourself from that rumination. We really want to focus on redirecting. So, reflection and redirection, not rumination. Lots of R words today. And the last thing I want to say is you're going to make mistakes. Every human on this planet is going to make mistakes. If you are not able to tolerate making mistakes, then it would be great to talk to somebody. But we need to have grace for ourselves because it is going to happen no matter how hard you try not to. So, after this episode, I hope you reflect more on your reflections and on your mistakes. And if you need help, there's no shame in taking that step. So, until the next time, keep reflecting.